and I want to welcome the witnesses. First, Mr. Alumni, first question. I'll have a few quick, short questions with you. You talked about reclamation and draining soils. 44,000 farmers in Ireland make their living, be it at sheep farming, be it suckler farming, and some of them dairy farming in the likes of Listowel and places like that, from peaty soils that has been drained that actually the EU gave them grants for years ago. That's how they make their living. You said that shouldn't be allowed. How are they going to make a living if they go on the system that you're talking about? You might unmute yourself.
So, and that's a part of the country that I know very well. Those Midland counties with peaty soils and other more upland areas. The European Farm to Fork and Biodiversity Strategy and have set out very clear recommendations and benefits which those areas can gain in ecological schemes and more extensive
grazing. Hold on. If the land, you put in shores in it, that's how you do reclamation. If that's where the cattle and sheep are farmed, and if you're saying that shouldn't be allowed, that it needs to be let go wild, how are they going to farm? Just very simple question.
Okay, if I may, I would ask the committee members to consult the national farm surveys that Teagasc complete every year. So the clear evidence from that is that the living is not made from the farming of the uplands. The living is made from the subvention through direct payments.
I'm not talking about just uplands. I'm talking about lowlands, because there was raised bog, there was Cushaway, and be it Listowel or be it Galway or be it Tipperary or any county in Ireland, and the farmers are farming the land. They have shored the land where you put in chips and you do the works with it. Tell me, if you're saying to them now that they cannot farm that land, they may be struggling at the moment, but they'll be totally unviable in a family farm. So what's their alternative?
Okay, so according to the National Farm Survey from Teagasc...
No, I want your solution to how they will live.
We can only base it on the data that's available to us. So in the National Farm Survey, it shows that 1/3 of farms are viable. 10 years ago, 1/3 of farms are viable.
Hold on. Let's go back on this. This is a thing that's being thrown out at the moment. The reality of it is a 40 or 50 or 60 acre farm isn't viable, but you have an off-farm job as well as the farm that keeps you viable. No more than Bordnamona workers that worked in Bordnamona and had a bit of farming were very viable. But when one is gone, they are then totally, basically gone as a family in a community. So what's the answer to what I have asked?
Well, the ending of the status quo. Nothing could be worse than the current situation for farmers in cattle and sheep farming, where their total income from the farming side is from direct payments. The direct payment has to subsidise the operation of the farm because the farm is not making any money for the farmer. So what they're currently doing, while guided by the bodies that have influence over farmers, it's not delivering for them. So the idea that what we keep going is what we're doing because we've done it for some time now just doesn't make any economic sense for the farmer.
Right. Second question. I was coming up here on my way to Dublin. I was just thinking, for the likes of An Taisce, right? We have seen An Taisce object to quarries. We need quarries for building houses, be it in Dublin, and I know that you'd be involved, or you'd know property in Dublin fairly well. You need it for building sheds for farmers. Water quality. People deserve water. An Taisce objected to Loch Tal, so let's go through Irobe. 9,000 people, 2 years on a boil water notice. Object to forestry. Object to the peat harvesting. Object to turf cutting. But won't give an answer to Matt Carty earlier on whether they'd rather to see the mushroom industry collapse or else keep getting the peat in from another country, which is totally off the wall in my opinion. One-off housing has been objected to. And all these objections go into parts of rural Ireland. And what I am trying to get my head around, and I don't want this word sustainable, because this word sustainable is constantly thrown out. In your opinion, in dairy sector, how many cows would we have? In your opinion, in the beef sector, how many cattle would we have? What other types of farming would we do? And give me your opinion on GAAC2. Someone might talk to me.
Who is going to take Deputy Fitzmaurice's?
Deputy Fitzmaurice, on the overarching questions you raised from quarries onwards and other land use activities, water extraction, there's a unifying principle that should be applied to all land use activity and land use change, large and small, which is going through a public consultation and assessment process in the interests of public health, to ensure protection of water quality, of nature and air quality, and to ensure regulation. On the issue of quarries, we have been tolerating appalling levels of unregulated quarries, which is unfair to legitimate operators who go through the planning system and have proper water protection. There was a situation in County Roscommon that an oil spillage in a quarry contaminated the water supply in the Strokestown area. So this is what happens when a quarry is not managed or regulated or compliant properly. The peat issue is self-inflicted because we have failed to put the research into alternatives.
Will you answer the question that Deputy Carty asked earlier on? We are now bringing in peat for the mushroom industry from another country. We are bringing in peat briquettes. Do you agree with that, or do you think that the mushroom industry should be wiped out? Which is it? You cannot have both sides of this.
Exactly, but it is not a binary choice.
Well, it is at the moment.
If you frame a question like that.
Which do you agree with?
Well, I don't agree with either.
Sorry.
There's no A or B. There's a lot more to it.
Well, no, Deputy Fitzmaurice, give me a chance to answer, Deputy. Yes, please.
So I'll go back to again. Civil society has pointed out for years/decades that we cannot continue to mine peat out of the ground for whatever purpose. We're now talking about carbon sequestration in terms of agriculture, and yet we're still not talking about what still remains the single biggest sequestration carbon storage in the country, which is our peatlands. Until we start protecting and restoring our peatland, sequestration is just it's dancing around the margins.
But the only problem is the farmer that's farming in marginal land, that got in a contractor to drain that land 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that is trying to make a living on that, be it on sheep, and it's generally sheep because it wouldn't be strong enough for cattle. What I am asking ye, give me it in the bread and butter terms. What sort of an Ireland do ye think should be in the numbers of cows, the numbers of sheep, the numbers of beef, cattle, the amount of tillage? Give me it in numbers, the way I want to see. Do you think there should be a coal in it? I want to see where your vision of it is. You talked about organic. If you want to go organic, we have the lowest number of organic farmers in, I think, Europe. But to be honest about it, you wouldn't feed a quarter of the planet if you were trying to all go organic, because you won't produce enough gear out of it. That's the bottom line. And what I am saying to you is, tell me your vision, because I'm coming up today, and even when you talk about objections, I saw where we were trying to get a sewerage plant where water quality was affected in a designated area. And in fairness to Irish Water, as bad as they are, they put in a new sewage treatment plant, and damn me, but you were objecting to the outflow out of it because it was 98% made perfect, where it was 100% raw sewage going in one time. So I want to know the vision that you have for rural Ireland, and why, when I look at you, I look at objection, objection, objection. I want to know your vision for the amount of dairy farmers that should be. Do you think there should be a cull to the dairy farm? The amount of beef farmers? Do you think that, what's the story on suckler cows? The sheep farmers? What other types of farms will keep a family in a local area in all parts of this country? Not just one part, in all parts.
Give the witnesses the chance to answer now, Deputy Fitzmaurice. Okay?
Well, Deputy Fitzmaurice, if you look at the coalition document, that is a vision for rural Ireland, an Ireland that embraces its land, the quality of the environment that we have, that plays our part in the challenge we have ahead globally in climate and reversing the loss of nature. And there is enormous opportunity now under the European Green Deal over the redirection of the CAP subsidy regime, which, as the European Court of Auditors has so clearly indicated last year, has failed not just in Ireland but across Europe in reversing the loss of nature, in advancing schemes that would apply to some of those drained peatland areas that you referred to in the Midlands for lower impact grazing that will meet organic standard, and to advance that 25% organic target for 2030, which is a rising consumer a consumer demand. So I'd invite you very much to look at the positive recommendations that are set out in the document, and perhaps, Chair, you could consider that at a future date the committee might be interested in engaging in more detail with the coalition group, which we were only one of 70 members in the production of this document, and to look at some of the positive recommendations that it's advancing for the future of rural Ireland to sustain employment and communities. So when we make a submission in the planning arena, which is, a legal entitlement to any citizen and is mandated, not just under the European consultation process, but under the UN Aarhus Convention, it's always phrased in a positive way to achieve how can a better outcome be achieved in more sustainable local communities that are less car dependent, where we can produce more mixed agriculture and food production, where we can advance ecotourism, which brings better rural employment, and enhance the nature, the cultural heritage of the area. So you'll find that all of our submissions are informed not by a negative, but by a positive of advancing the better Ireland that we all want to see. Sometimes that means going against an individual interest. If somebody is operating an illegal quarry and wants to circumvent the law by getting a retention application in by a back door, then that's going to end up in court. So that's where we do run into conflict issues, and that's unavoidable because of the nature of the planning system. But when you look at our submissions, when you look at our inputs into national policy documents and into county development plans, like in your own area of Longford, Roscommon, you will find those don't get the publicity. You will find that all the time we are advancing at local level to the council, informed by our local rural members and by our experience of applying best practice and what's going on in other countries as to how we can advance the cause of rural Ireland as much as urban Ireland. And urban Ireland has problems as great as rural Ireland in terms of greenhouse gases, the level of car dependence, air pollution from traffic emissions. We have massive challenges and transformational change needed in urban Ireland as much as rural Ireland, and that was very much communicated by Commissioner or Vice President Timmermans in his interview today, saying that all of us need to think about the next generation and people across the world in the change that is needed in our energy systems, our transport systems, in our food systems, and in reconnecting with nature.
Mr. Lumley, thank you.
Can I just finish off, Mr. Lumley? If I want to think of the next generation, my young fella or my young daughter, I have to clean the drain from the marginal land that we've been given to live and work on. I cannot make the golden veil out of it. We have to work that land to keep them there, to hand on that torch. Not by not cleaning the drain and letting it flood will keep them there. That will definitely make them immigrate away from the flight of the land. That every one of us here on the Agricultural Committee are trying to get youngsters back into farming. And when you talk about the Europe Green Deal, have a look at the environmental scheme that's coming out at the moment. It is €300 less, the top figure, than what GLAS was. And GLAS was no great scheme. And on average, will work out less. And I would urge you, as an organisation, to be more positive to people in rural Ireland, because I will tell you, you talk about members down there, well, I'd say not too many of them ever put in a stone shower in average ground right around this country. You might have members living in the area, but I don't think they're from a farming background.
Not at all.
I think that was